The Germans complained about shotguns. They never saw what British soldiers made in the trenches. Welcome to a dive into the brutal underbelly of World War I, where desperation bred weapons so savage they sparked ethical firestorms. In the hellish confines of no man's land, soldiers didn't just fight with rifles and bayonets. They improvised tools of terror for hand-to-hand carnage. Today, we uncover the clubs, knives, brass knuckles, push daggers, and fighting knives that turned men into monsters. Buckle up. This is the story of close combat controversy. World War I, the Great War, redefined horror. By 1915, the Western Front had stagnated into a nightmare of trenches stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland. Soldiers lived in mud-filled ditches, facing machine guns, artillery, and gas attacks. But the real terror came at night: trench raids. Small groups of men would sneak across no man's land to capture prisoners, gather intel, or simply sow chaos. Firearms were loud and risky in these close-quarters brawls, so troops turned to silent killers, improvised melee weapons. These weren't factory-made. They were born from scrap, ingenuity, and the raw need to survive. And while the Germans decried American shotguns as barbaric, the British creations were arguably worse: personal, vicious, and designed for one thing: ending lives up close. Let's start with the context. In September 1918, Germany lodged a formal protest against U.S. troops using Winchester Model 1897 pump-action shotguns. They claimed these trench guns violated the Hague Conventions by causing unnecessary suffering, buckshot tearing through flesh in confined spaces. The Germans even threatened to execute captured Americans armed with them. But irony abounds. The same nation that unleashed poison gas now cried foul over a shotgun. This hypocrisy highlights the ethical quagmire of World War I weapons. If shotguns were too brutal, what about the handmade horrors British soldiers wielded? Weapons that required getting within arm's reach, feeling your enemy's last breath. These sparked debates on the morality of war. Were they tools of defense or instruments of savagery? First up, the improvised club, or trench club, the blunt force king of trench warfare. Picture this: a British Tommy, knee-deep in muck, scavenging for anything lethal. A broken shovel handle, a chunk of wood from a crate, or even a table leg. They'd hammer in nails, barbed wire, or metal shards, creating a mace-like weapon weighing up to 5 pounds. Official versions were mass-produced, simple, effective, and silent. Why so brutal? In a raid, you'd crawl through barbed wire, drop into an enemy trench, and swing. One blow could crush a skull, splinter bones, or knock a man senseless for capture. No gunfire to alert reinforcements, just the sickening thud of wood on flesh. British units like the Royal Engineers churned these out in workshops behind the lines, but frontline soldiers personalized them. One famous example: the knob carry, inspired by Zulu clubs, with a heavy knob for maximum impact. Ethically, these clubs harken back to medieval warfare in a modern age of tanks and planes. Critics argued they dehumanized soldiers, turning combat into primal butchery. Yet, defenders said they were necessities. Raids saved lives by disrupting enemy plans. The Germans used similar clubs, but the British excelled in improvisation. Over 100,000 such weapons were issued or made, a testament to their grim utility. Imagine the psychological toll: wielding something so crude, knowing each strike was personal. Moving to something even more intimate: brass knuckles. These weren't new to World War I. Street fighters used them for centuries, but in the trenches, they became a raider's best friend. British soldiers cast them from melted-down brass, shell casings, or scavenged metal, slipping them over fingers for devastating punches. In close combat, a bare fist might break on a helmet, but brass knuckles amplified force, shattering jaws, noses, or even skulls. Paired with a knife or club, they were ideal for subduing sentries quietly. Trench raiders, elite shock troops, often carry them alongside revolvers. A British raider's kit might include multiple pairs for different grips. The controversy? Brass knuckles blurred the line between soldier and thug. Hague rules banned weapons causing superfluous injury, and these fit the bill, designed not just to incapacitate, but to maim horrifically. Ethical debates raged post-war. Were they fair in a total war, or did they erode the honor of combat? Some veterans defended them as equalizers against bayonets, but others saw them as symbols of war's descent into barbarism. Interestingly, while Germans protested shotguns, they too used brass variants, highlighting the hypocrisy in weapon ethics. Now, the Blade Brigade starts with general knives, simple, versatile, and deadly. British soldiers often modified kitchen knives or bayonets, shortening them for easier handling in tight spaces. A common improv, the trench spike, a pointed rod from barbed wire stakes, perfect for thrusting. These weren't for show. In raids, a knife silenced guards with a quick slash or stab. Soldiers trained in knife-fighting drills, emphasizing vital points. The brutality? Knives required eye contact, making kills deeply personal. Unlike bullets, they left survivors with lifelong scars. Ethically, knives embodied the war's intimacy. Debates centered on whether such weapons prolonged suffering. A stab wound might not kill instantly, leading to agony. Yet they were silent necessities in espionage-like raids. British forces issued thousands, but improvisations ruled. One soldier's diary described crafting a knife from a file. It sings through the air, ending arguments forever. Enter the push dagger, a compact terror with a T-handle grip, blade protruding between fingers like a punch knife. British raiders favored them for their concealability. Slip it in a pocket, then deliver a forward thrust like a boxer. In World War I, these were often handmade from scrap metal or issued as knuckle knives. A single push could puncture lungs or hearts in seconds. Their design maximized force from short distances, ideal for trench grapples. The viral controversy. Push daggers were seen as assassins' tools, not soldiers' weapons. Ethical arguments labeled them unfair for causing undue pain, penetrating wounds that festered in filthy trenches. Post-World War I treaties debated banning such inhumane blades, echoing shotgun protests. But in the moment, they saved lives by ending fights fast. Germans captured them and complained informally, calling them devil's claws. Finally, the fighting knife, epitomized by the trench knife. While Americans had the infamous 1918 Mark I with its brass knuckle handle and triangular blade, British versions were similar, double-edged daggers for slashing and stabbing. Improvised from bayonets or custom-forged, these were raid staples. The Mark I's blade caused wounds that didn't close easily, maximizing lethality. British soldiers adapted them, adding guards or spikes. Brutality peaked here, designed solely to kill, not wound. Ethical firestorms post-war questioned if such weapons violated humanity's laws. Debates in the 1920s League of Nations mirrored today's drone ethics, technology versus morality. Germans, gassing thousands, still decried these as uncivilized. The irony? These knives were reactions to their own tactics. In the end, these improvised weapons, clubs, brass knuckles, knives, push daggers, fighting knives, weren't just tools. They were symptoms of WWI's soul-crushing reality. The Germans balked at shotguns, but the British trench creations pushed brutality further, sparking ethical debates that echo today. Was it survival or savagery? War blurs the line. These weapons remind us. In the trenches, humanity was the first casualty. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts.